Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with veteran jazz violinist and composer Sam Bardfeld. On the 2023 album, Refuge. It's his new trio album and the follow-up to his critically acclaimed The Great Enthusiasms, his second for Brooklyn Jazz Underground Records, and his fourth as a bandleader. It's set to be released on March 24th, 2023, and it's so good to see new work coming out. The last time we interviewed was back in 2017, and now the world is indeed a new world. We cover some good ground in this one. Enjoy the interview.
So, the last time we caught up, it seems like it was the land of wine and roses prior to COVID times.
Yeah, whole new world.
Yeah, isn't it weird? It's strange. But, yeah, it's so good. I can tell you from my end of things, being behind the microphone and spinning this wonderful music, is that in March of 2020, all these albums were coming in. No one knew what was going to happen. And I'm talking to musicians, and they're all just
sure.
Oh, my God, they're going with it, but they're like, everything's just closing down. So now, when new music's coming out, that March month's coming on the calendar, but it's a vastly different time. Things are waking up. People are playing shows. This has to feel good.
Oh, yeah. I think, some of the shows that I've done live in the last year or two have all felt different because I think both musicians and audiences don't take anything for granted, and there's a feeling in the room that's just different, and I think it's certainly a silver lining or a positive thing of this is to be here together, and and especially in a climate in America where the arts have never really been institutionally supported the way they should be. But I think it's something that everybody feels is kind of special and is grateful for. There's a feeling of gratitude, I think, on both sides.
Yeah, and you've been obviously on very big stages with big performers and and stages in between, so it just has to feel good all the way around to see this coming back. And also to have a new album coming out, because you get to promote this live. It's almost as though, I kind of cringed a little bit when people are like, well, we're going to get back to normal, but it's the new normal. We're in a new world, but it still is emblematic of the fact that you cats are getting back to it, and it has to feel good to have this entirety going on right now.
Well, sure, it's a very big. To really make a good artistic statement, a meaningful statement, it's a lot of work from beginning to end in all senses of the word. Writing the music, and you write music and not all of it works sometimes. You throw stuff away or you don't use it, and the process of going through stuff with the band and editing it and doing. I would never make a record without playing it 4 or 5 times with the band, playing it live, and the whole recording process. I have a trio, and it's extremely expensive. It just just to do it reasonably. Unless you're just going to do throw some mics up and do it live, and sometimes you get lucky, we're moving, there's very little money out there for, most people are going into their pockets, and it's more becoming we're going back really to the Medicis in terms of the way the business is going. I believe that the record, the jazz recording of the year and the Grammys that came out on Pyroclastic, right? The Terry Lynn Carrington record with Chris Davis, and that's funded by a philanthropist. Pyroclastic Records. All those records are made by a multimillionaire. And so we're going back to that era. But anyway, your question is, it's a long journey, and to do it right, to make good art is hard. Tremendously. I'm not complaining. It's tremendously rewarding. We do. You got to move forward.
Yeah. Oh, I totally dig what you're saying. So, Refugee is the newest trio album. You got a great lineup. It just sounds like you were really hitting it, having a good conversation. Things were working on this album.
Yeah, I think so. I was, it's helpful that I think this record was building off the last one, The Great Enthusiasms, which was similar instrumentation with Mike Serene on drums, and that one had Chris Davis on piano, so it was a trio with violin, piano, and drums, no bass. And I was happy with that record, and it got a really nice critical reception. So I wanted to kind of build off that, not to copy it, but continue from where that left off. So that was helpful in terms of sort of knowing what worked and growing out of that. And Chris, I adore Chris, and she's a brilliant musician. She got she got a nice teaching gig in Boston and is super busy. And so she graciously bowed out. And Jacob is an old friend and a equally brilliant musician. And so he was my first choice, and that worked out perfectly. I think he kind of understood the music and the quirkiness and the levity and fit right in. And he had somehow miraculously never played with Mike before, which, considering they're in very similar circles in New York, was strange to me, but they really hit it off right away. And I think as you said, stated nicely, we had a nice dialogue.
Let me get kind of a little bit of a handle now. I mean, I'm going to kind of step back a little bit. How did you make it through this COVID period, this 3-year period? How did you survive it? And how has it changed the way that you are approaching things now? Has there been a big change with the way that you approach either the stage or the creative process?
Well, I don't know if there's been a change in the way that I approach the stage or the creative process exactly, but it did affect my life in that first of all, it affected all of us. I mean, all of a sudden we had to work, and it just on a personal note. So that was March of 2020. In June of 2019, I broke my wrist. I had a slip and fall, and I couldn't work for 5 months. And from June through beginning of June through the beginning of November. And that was really hard. I mean, it was, I took a financial hit, but it was really hard psychologically. And then I worked for a few months, and then bam, there was COVID. So going through both of those things, I think part of the, it makes you think about what you're doing in life, I have a family, I have 2 kids. Think about, maybe I should do something else in addition. Not that I would ever give it up, but, consider, getting an MSW and growing old with a small therapy practice, psychotherapy practice, something like that. But, it caused me to sort of dig deep, and I didn't ultimately, I talked to a lot of different people. I talked about, I talked to somebody about coaching or, maybe getting, doing some more teaching. And I think it all of that process forced me to sort of soul search a little bit. And ultimately, I didn't want to give up time on the instruments. I didn't want that any of those, I was too sort of protective of moving forward, and it allowed me to, in the words of Sheryl Sandberg, lean in. And I think the time that sort of the process, I think of not it being a passive thing, but an active thing, not just I'm doing this because I keep doing it, but no, this is what I want to do, what I need to do, and I'm just going to put more energy into it and really commit in a very conscious way. And I think that was very helpful in terms of the process, and I think I've seen the benefits of that. I'm someone who I got a liberal arts education. I went to Wesleyan. I went there because they had a good jazz and ethnic musicology department, but I didn't decide to play professionally till I was 26, which, as you know, in this universe is very late to be a performer, or particularly a successful one. And so I'm always trying to work hard and move forward and get better. And I mean, I think everyone should always try to move forward and not be stuck. But so I think all of that was helpful to me, kind of sort of making that conscious commitment. The other thing about COVID, and I think this is true for a lot of musicians, is that it allowed us to put some time and energy into some things that were not necessarily of immediate pragmatic import, projects or studies, or kind of that paid off. For instance, a couple of things that I did was I got really into playing solo versions of Monk, of Thelonious Monk tunes, which is a wonderful vehicle with his voicings. Now, of course, I only have 4 strings, but and 5 fingers as opposed to 10 when you play the piano, but or really 4 fingers because you don't use the thumb, but some of those voicings, 2 or 3 note versions of those voicings, and so that was a project, and the Bach solo sonatas and partitas too. I memorized the E major sonata, and I started playing the Bach chaconne every day. I would never in a million years play that in public, but these kinds of projects that you always say, musicians always say they want to do, but it's not, a lot of times we're working towards the next gig or the next record, or anyway, that's a long-winded answer to your question.
No, I think it's great. Yeah. And I think one of the other things that was a part of this going into COVID process and the world of music shutting down was that a lot of musicians had to make choices. They left big cities. They changed professions.
Yeah.
But now that we're coming out of it, I'm getting the sense that the world, especially with the youth, the younger players, is stronger than ever in the world of jazz.
Oh, yeah. There's so much great stuff out there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know from your perspective if that was something that you were thinking about, too, as we reemerged. But it seems like things are not only back to a good place, but there's almost a resurgence, so to speak, of young blood in jazz.
I don't know if things ever went away. There's so much of that has to do with perception. I mean, certainly, perception and media, and I mean, there's always a lot of great stuff going on. But certainly, yeah, the world has opened up, and there's a lot of great stuff happening. Absolutely.
So, Sam, if anybody out there wants to pick up the brand new album, see you live, learn anything more about what's going on in your world as this 2023 continues to open up, where can they go? Where's the best place?
Well, the official release date is March 24th. Bandcamp I have a Bandcamp page, and it will absolutely be on Bandcamp shortly. I don't have a physical copy in my hand yet. It's only, it's what's today, February 8th. I don't know when this is going to be released, but so in about a week I'll have physical copies, and I will create a Bandcamp page. So that's the best place. I'm also going to do, I think I'm going to do a soft GoFundMe or Indiegogo with rewards, merch, T-shirts and mugs and scores, to try to recoup, not all, but, I'll be happy if I can recoup half of my expenses. And the label, you can get it on the label. Brooklyn Jazz Underground has a page, but Bandcamp is the best place. I'm a supporter of Bandcamp.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of why I hedge on this question, because I'm hoping that everybody kind of gives a little bit more lip service because it is so good. So, Sam, it's great to catch up with you. Thank you for opening up. Have a great 2023. Good luck with the album.
Thanks so much, Joe. Take care.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Brooklyn, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Sam for his time, music, and cool. Find archived Neon Jazz interviews at Apple Podcast or Spotify. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And for all things Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.